The United States and China, the world's two largest economies, have spent decades building a complex and deeply intertwined economic relationship. American companies, seeking lower production costs, moved much of their manufacturing to China, while Chinese factories produced goods that filled shelves in the US and around the world. This partnership fueled rapid economic growth on both sides, creating millions of jobs and lifting countless people out of poverty. Trade between the two nations soared, and their economies became more connected than ever before. But beneath this surface prosperity, long-standing tensions simmered. The US grew increasingly concerned about its growing trade deficit with China, which some argued was costing American jobs. There were also accusations of intellectual property theft, forced technology transfers, and unfair trade practices that many in the US believed gave Chinese companies an unfair advantage. These issues finally erupted into a full-blown trade war in 2018, when the US government imposed tariffs on hundreds of billions of dollars worth of Chinese goods, aiming to pressure China into changing its trade policies and business practices. China quickly retaliated with its own tariffs, targeting key American exports like soybeans, cars, and agricultural products, striking at the heart of US farming and manufacturing communities. What began as a dispute over tariffs soon expanded into a much broader strategic rivalry. The competition now touches not just trade, but also technology, finance, and even global influence. Both countries are racing to dominate industries like artificial intelligence, 5G, and green energy, each seeking to secure their own economic future. In response to rising tensions, both the US and China are now working to reduce their dependence on each other, a process known as decoupling. This means shifting supply chains, finding new trading partners, and investing in domestic industries to become more self-reliant. This shift is already reshaping global supply chains, forcing companies to rethink where they source materials and manufacture products. Some businesses are moving operations to other countries, while others are investing in automation and new technologies to stay competitive. The uncertainty created by these changes is being felt by businesses and consumers worldwide. Companies face higher costs and unpredictable regulations, while consumers may see rising prices and fewer choices on store shelves. The era of easy cooperation between the US and China is over. Now every economic move is met with a countermove, as both sides try to protect their interests and gain the upper hand. The conflict continues to evolve, with new tariffs, regulations, and restrictions being introduced on both sides. Each measure is met with a swift response, keeping tensions high and the future uncertain. As both countries adapt to this new reality, the world is left watching, wondering how this rivalry will shape the future of global trade and economic cooperation. The outcome of this ongoing struggle will have far-reaching consequences, not just for the US and China, but for the entire world economy. In a new escalation, China has introduced a special port fee targeting only US-flagged ships or those carrying American cargo. This fee, described as retaliation for US actions against Chinese shipping, adds a significant cost to every American shipment entering Chinese ports. Chinese officials frame it as a defensive measure, aiming to restore balance and reciprocity in maritime trade. For US exporters, this means higher costs and less competitiveness in the Chinese market. The fee is a precise tool, moving the conflict from broad tariffs to the vital logistics of global shipping. It's a calculated move to apply pressure where it hurts most, at the heart of US-China trade flows. The message is clear. China is willing to use new tools to defend its interests. This port fee is just the latest move in a long series of tit-for-tat actions. The US started with tariffs on Chinese goods, aiming to force policy changes. China responded strategically, targeting US industries like agriculture and autos to maximize political impact. Both sides escalated, expanding tariffs and introducing new restrictions. The US also used export controls, notably against tech giant Huawei, and blocked Chinese investments on security grounds. China countered with regulatory probes and customs delays for US companies. These non-tariff barriers can be just as damaging as tariffs, creating uncertainty and extra costs. The new port fee continues this pattern, using administrative tools to apply targeted pressure. The trade war has become a complex chess game, with each side seeking leverage. The shipping industry will feel the impact first, Even a modest fee adds up quickly for ships carrying thousands of containers. Shipping companies must choose absorb the cost or pass it to U.S. exporters as a new surcharge. This makes American goods more expensive in China, hurting their competitiveness. Some companies may try to reroute shipments through third countries, but this adds time, cost, and complexity. Chinese customs will likely scrutinize such maneuvers, increasing risk. The fee injects new uncertainty into global logistics, making it harder for businesses to plan. Shipping lines may reduce U.S.-China sailings, leading to less capacity and higher rates. The result: disrupted supply chains and rising costs for exporters. The ripple effects will be felt far beyond the docks. For American businesses, the introduction of this new fee brings a wave of challenges. Not only does it mean higher costs for companies trying to export goods to China, but it also intensifies the already fierce competition in the Chinese market. Many businesses are now forced to rethink their strategies, as the financial burden of these fees can quickly add up and eat into profits. Small exporters in particular may find it nearly impossible to absorb the extra expense without raising prices or cutting jobs. Meanwhile, large corporations could face millions of dollars in added costs, which may lead to difficult decisions about where to allocate resources or whether to scale back operations. As a result, some companies might consider shifting their production facilities to China or other countries to avoid these cross-border fees altogether. This move, while potentially saving money, could have a significant impact on American jobs, leading to layoffs and factory closures in the U.S. For U.S. consumers, the effects may not be felt immediately at the checkout counter. However, over time, the broader trade war and these new fees can ripple through the economy, hurting American industries and workers by reducing demand for U.S.-made products. Farmers, manufacturers, and the communities that depend on them are often the first to feel the pain when exports drop. Lower sales abroad can mean less income at home, leading to struggling local economies and even business closures in rural areas. The new fee also creates a sense of instability in the business world. Companies find it increasingly difficult to plan for the future or make long-term investments when the rules of trade can change overnight. This uncertainty slows economic growth, discourages hiring, and makes it harder for businesses to expand or innovate. The ripple effects can be felt across the job market and throughout the supply chain. Ultimately, the port fee is more than just an added cost. It stands as a symbol of a volatile and unpredictable trading environment, where businesses must constantly adapt to new challenges. In times like these, businesses crave stability and predictability, but the ongoing trade war delivers the opposite, making it harder to plan for growth or success. The fallout from these changes reaches deep into the U.S. economy, affecting not just companies and workers, but entire communities and the nation's economic future. The new port fee is another blow to already strained global supply chains. Recent years have seen disruptions from the pandemic, port backlogs, and geopolitical tensions. Even small changes in trade policy can ripple through these complex networks. Companies are now accelerating efforts to diversify supply chains away from China, a China plus one strategy. But moving production is costly and slow. No single country can match China's scale and efficiency. Many firms are building more regional, less efficient supply chains, raising costs. The world may be heading toward a more fragmented, expensive trading system. Higher prices and more barriers could become the new normal. The port fee is a sign that trade is now a battleground in global rivalry. The era of seamless globalization is fading. Experts across the globe are closely watching the introduction of the new port fee, describing it as a significant escalation in the ongoing trade dispute. Many point out that this move marks a shift away from the more predictable world of transparent tariffs and into the murkier territory of non-tariff barriers, which are often harder to anticipate and navigate for businesses. The unpredictability of such measures, they warn, can have ripple effects far beyond the shipping industry, impacting supply chains and global markets. David Lee, a respected trade analyst, describes the fee as a sophisticated form of economic pressure. He explains that it injects a new level of uncertainty into international business, making it much more difficult for companies to plan ahead or make long-term investments. According to Lee, this uncertainty can discourage new trade deals and even prompt some firms to reconsider their presence in affected markets. Dr. Emily Vance, an economist specializing in global trade, highlights that the fee is particularly damaging because it targets U.S. exporters at the very last stage of the shipping process. She argues that this not only increases costs, but also gives a clear advantage to competitors from other countries, who may now be able to offer lower prices or faster delivery times. Vance warns that over time, this could erode the competitiveness of U.S. goods in key international markets. Meanwhile, some voices in China see the new fee as a justified and necessary response to what they perceive as years of mounting U.S. pressure and restrictive trade policies. For them, it's a way to push back and assert China's interests on the global stage. Wang Chen, a professor at a leading Beijing university, believes the fee sends a strong message. He says it demonstrates China's resolve and its demand for fair and equal treatment in international trade negotiations. According to Chen, this move is as much about symbolism as it is about economics, signaling that China will not back down easily. Despite differing perspectives, most experts agree on one thing. This tit-for-tat cycle of measures and countermeasures is raising the stakes. Each new action increases the risk of miscalculation, making it more likely that a misunderstanding or overreaction could spiral into a broader conflict that affects not just trade, but international relations as a whole. With every new measure, the path to de-escalation becomes more complicated. The longer this cycle continues, the harder it will be for both sides to step back and find common ground. There is growing concern among financial analysts and business leaders that the dispute could soon spill over into other sectors, such as finance or technology, or even lead to more direct confrontations between the two countries. The uncertainty is already being felt in global stock markets and boardrooms, where executives are scrambling to assess the potential risks. As one former international negotiator put it, both sides are walking a tightrope. The balance is delicate, and a single misstep could have far-reaching consequences for the global economy. The challenge now, experts say, is to find a way to halt the escalation and bring both parties back to the negotiating table. Only through dialogue and compromise can a lasting solution be found. For now, however, the standoff continues, with both sides waiting to see who will make the next move. With the port fee in place, what's next? The US could respond with its own fees on Chinese ships, deepening the cycle of retaliation, or it might escalate elsewhere, tightening tech export controls to hit China's tech sector. A third option is diplomacy. Business leaders could push for renewed negotiations to ease tensions. But deep mistrust makes this path difficult. There's also the chance that both sides settle into a tense, new normal, with ongoing fees and tariffs. This would mean slower growth and higher costs for years to come. The future of global trade hangs in the balance. Even if you're far from the ports of Shanghai or Los Angeles, this dispute affects you. The new port fee is a symptom of a larger shift, one that impacts the price of goods, job security, and economic stability worldwide. When trade barriers rise, costs go up and efficiency drops, eventually reaching consumers everywhere. The trade war creates winners and losers within countries, reshaping industries and communities. Ultimately, this is about the kind of world we want, one of cooperation or rivalry. The US-China relationship will help decide that future. The choices made now will shape the global economy for decades. That's why this port fee, though small, is a big deal for all of us.